on, guys? Trista here, and welcome to the first episode of my brand new podcast called The Kast. I'm with the one and only Bray. Welcome to the video. Welcome to The Kast. You're my first ever guest on the show. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you for taking time out of your day. Why don't you introduce yourself real quick, and then we can get the show rolling.
Absolutely. I'm Bray, and a lot of people know me as the casual hero online, whether it's through streaming or through art or the different stuff. And I started a company called Crimson Titan, and we're doing stuff. We're doing things.
Let's talk first about how we met. And so that's how everyone can know how our kind of story and how we came to know each other. Because if you guys don't know, me and Bray, we've known each other for over a decade now. It's been over 10 years that we've been friends and working together, and it's been a crazy road, man. So do you remember how we met and everything?
I remember that it was back when I was primarily on YouTube.
Yes.
And I want to say it was during a Kingdom Hearts stream.
You were doing a Kingdom Hearts game? You were playing?
Yeah, I thought that's what it was.
That's awesome. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I thought I was playing Kingdom Hearts, and you had come in with, either it was you or kind of like the YouTube version of a raid where you would back in the day, you'd put the link in chat.
I probably did do that.
Force everybody to click it.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, because you came in and we started talking about Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy. And
it was
what started that whole friendship.
Yeah, it was actually Autobot Wheeljack. He changed his name now. He's Corbel now. Actually, go check him out.
That's right. It was Autobot.
He's the one who was watching you and posted you in my Discord, and I was like, who is this guy?
Oh.
Yeah, and funny story about that whole thing. I don't know if you remember this detail, but there was something up with the cropping of your webcam or something, and I don't think you noticed it. So when I pointed it out in your stream, you're like, who is this guy coming in here for the first time and judging me? And you got all mad, and then you were like, oh yeah, it's kind of messed up. Your head was chopped. Something happened, but you fixed it in a second. But it was a funny detail.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
A lot of, so with streaming, I play a little bit more of a character. So I'm always being a little more extra ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how a lot of friendships start. Will be somebody pointing something out.
Yeah.
Maybe
and so
who do you think you are, or whatever, this or that. And I fix the thing, and it kind of creates a moment for,
sure.
us to remember.
Yeah, so the way that I met you is as the casual hero. If you guys don't already follow him, his link's in my description. He's on Twitch. He plays a ton of retro games and other stuff like that. If you should really check him out. He does Resident Evil. He does a bunch of other games. And he's going crazy with the content right now. It's pretty awesome. So go check him out. He's usually live. You're definitely every Friday. You're always doing casual Fridays. But what's your schedule like? Can you tell me a little bit about your schedule as a streamer, and how you manage that? How do you maintain everything like that? How do you go about your daily life? And then I want to stream here. Is it only a night thing? Tell me about that.
Right now it's pure chaos.
Yeah.
I try to keep Fridays is my thing. The casual Friday was an inside joke, kind of off my name. So it was cool because the stream had no pressure.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted to do deathless Castlevania runs or deathless, Resident Evil or whatever it was, I could do that. But if I just felt like casually going through an RPG or something like that, there was no pressure to have to perform. So that kind of stuck around while my schedule was bouncing around. And then I typically stream through weekends. That's when I have the most freedom. And it just depends on my Saturday, Sunday activities.
Okay. Gotcha.
So yesterday, I think we played Pokemon Fire Red for
I saw that stream. That was my first Pokemon game too. Oh, I'm so glad you're playing that right now.
I started with the original.
Yeah.
The old black and white. So coming
God.
back to this with some newer graphics and a couple of updated mechanics is actually super cool.
Are you playing it on PC, or how are you playing it?
Yeah, I'm playing it on PC.
Okay, that's cool.
I'm just running an emulator. I try to do original hardware as much as possible. Like I have, my Super Nintendo, my Sega Genesis, and my Sega Saturn, and my PlayStations and Dreamcast, blah, 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 blah. I've got all those things. But the Visual Boy Advance is, like, the Game Boy stuff is a little bit harder to do. I don't feel bad about emulating that. And I still try to go to the retro shops and buy a copy of the game to have. I like having the original copies of stuff as I go through it, but I'm also not so hard on myself. A lot of these companies do not do a good job preserving their history. And every time a company comes out with a game that I love that's retro, I will just continue to rebuy it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, hey, Heavy Barrel just re-released the arcade version.
Oh,
it's like a 30-something-year-old game or whatever. I buy it. Jim Powers just released. I bought that. Like, yeah, so anytime they take like a classic game and they update it where I can get it available, I do that. Like, I show that support. So companies just need to do a better job at preserving that library and making that available to people, because people will buy it. They want the legitimacy of that license.
I'm all for remasters, dude. They just dropped Oblivion. Like, come on, dude.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so remasters and remakes are like a whole deal, but I will say what has my attention right now more than anything are the Dragon Quest remakes.
Ooh,
Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake is like one of the most fun and beautiful games I've played in a long time.
I haven't played it. I'm watching Corbel play it right now, and it's sick. He's doing like a whole playthrough of the game, and he's really good too.
Yeah. I just got through playing it on Draconian, and it was so... Like, that game, out of all of them, forces you to really take account of every single move you make, or you can... The tide of battle can turn on you really quick. And I love that. As much as I am a Final Fantasy person at heart, especially with 7, sometimes the battles feel meaningless. They're a little too easy. And I like that Dragon Quest has that, like, if you slip up, even in a... so random battle, it could severely hurt you, especially throughout the dungeon. Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing that we're very lucky with, we have such a library when it comes to gaming and when it comes to streaming games. Like, we have so much, so we never really have to worry about that,
No, and people have done a great job doing things like retro achievements now. So even if if you're one of those guys that's like beaten the entire Super Nintendo library. Yeah. Now you have these retro achievements. You could go back and play the game and get all the stuff for, like, it's super cool. And I think that's why I love retro, is there's so much passion and love.
And remasters, right? Because like once they remaster those games, they remake them, they have more trophies for them. They have more like achievements that you can get. They have new ones. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a never-ending well of fun and passion, both from the fans and from the original creators. So
yeah, but yeah, like I was saying, like one really good thing about game streaming, I think for us, is that we have such a library. There's so much stuff there for. It's like movies. There's so many different genres. There's so many different versions, remakes. They got new games. Like there's so much to pick and choose from, and so there's something for everyone. But yeah, what was I gonna say? So that being said, what do you think are like some of the struggles of streaming? Like what go off real quick, kind of just let this be your moment to vent a little bit and just tell the world how hard we got it. Like what are the things and the pains that we go through to make it look so easy, right? So
well, I mean, it's like any business. At the end of the day, streaming is a business. And so over time, as streaming has become more noticed by other collaborative businesses and things like that, it's been stacked in a way that, you kind of got, there's certain things that you should follow and do to get that discoverability.
Right.
And that can pigeonhole you and limit you. Like I know for a fact, my best times for streaming are midnight and after.
Okay.
I don't have that kind of life, right, where I can just do that.
Yeah.
So it makes that difficult. And now we're also living in a post-pandemic live stream universe. And it has taught a lot of people that it's quote unquote free entertainment. So like just before COVID and a little bit into it, the majority of people that would come in were financially supportive. You would have few people here and there that weren't, but the actual majority, at least from my experience on Twitch, was that the majority of the people at the beginning were very financially supportive because they recognized the time and the talent and the equipment and everything that it took to get a stream going to that level.
100%.
And that's changed because people
I
needed free
agree.
entertainment during COVID. Now the majority of people, they come into a stream and they instantly expect you to do free.
Yeah.
You're
or
just there,
or just that
and
high
you're just-
quality, right? They just expect it.
Yeah, it's not like a blessing or a growth, or it's just like, oh yeah, I just show up and watch this stream.
No, I completely
And so
agree.
I have seen so many creators quit because they just couldn't either they couldn't keep up with their full-time streaming job. So they got burnt out because they were trying so hard to keep that up after that cultural shift.
Yeah.
Or the other thing is they couldn't like keep it up as a side hustle, right? So the hours started to dwindle because they had to, keep their job, and eventually it just never came back.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people out there, they'll look at what we're saying right now and they'll say that streaming isn't a job, that it's a hobby, like it's not a business. Like what do you say to that? What do you say to those people that are
That's just ignorant. I mean, anything can be a business, right? And that's the beautiful thing is like good successful streamers not only have good content, but they manage the business side well by, making use of the ads and the revenue through sponsorships and through other things to make sure that all that is lucrative, and they're on a schedule. They're doing sponsorship videos. They're reaching out to companies to do games, that are just releasing. They're on top of that stuff. They're
Right.
also on top of the schedule of like Nintendo Directs and things like that. So that kind of goes with like how hard streaming is now, is really like
putting yourself out there.
yeah, you have to find like where you're at in the sphere and then be all in that.
Yeah.
And it really is, it's more than an 8-hour job.
Yeah.
The majority of
it's
streams are like
24/7.
6 to 8 hours, and the behind the scenes work is even more.
Yeah, like you
So-
said, I think it's just ignorance. It's like the lack of knowledge. They're not in the industry. They don't know. You know what I mean? They're just at face value. It's like, oh, this guy's just playing video games to entertain kids. Like that. That's all they say, and that it
Right.
irks me, bro. It irks me so much. They don't get it. But like, dude, try to figure out
Yeah.
audio, lighting, technology, all this stuff, every little thing.
Especially when we started a decade ago and this stuff was not easy to figure out. It wasn't user friendly. Stuff just didn't work. And you would have to go and figure out, makeshift driver patches and all this other, like there was nothing available and
Yeah.
streamlined. It was, you had to know the right people and have the right equipment. It was,
True,
it was
I've-
kind of like a prestigious thing.
Yeah, it's definitely more mainstream now. A lot of people know about it now, and now you got these dudes that are just doing crazy stuff on live streams, and it's so easy to get the technology. You can literally just go to Walmart or Target now and just get like a PC set up, and it's pretty easy now, right?
Yeah.
Everything's built in.
Yeah, and I mean, even the consoles have like really easy integrated streaming now.
Yeah, which is good because I don't want people to be limited, so I'm glad it's getting better. But there obviously is like a leap of faith you take and really going in and going all
Yeah.
out with it, right?
I think the problem is with the way the market has adjusted to the platform. So like I said before, like indie creators could get good growth, fairly easy just by having, a solid show, like a good quality show. But as it got bigger, it became more mainstream, so you had to be more gimmicky. Like there's all these things that kind of went behind it, or you really had to take it seriously like a full-time
Yeah.
gig, and not everybody, is able to kind of have that kind of energy or thing. Or the other thing is parallel content, right? I guess that's one of the things I didn't touch on is actually having for Twitch streamers in particular, having a YouTube channel that actually focuses on something of
subject.
value for viewers. It that can be hard too, because then you're doing dual content. You're over here doing one thing, and you're over here doing one thing. A lot of times they don't quite go together, especially at the lower viewership levels. So like on YouTube, it's really good if you teach people something. So
for sure.
for me, it would probably be beneficial to start teaching people art and music and martial arts and things like that.
Well, YouTube is a search engine, right? It's like Google.
Yeah.
So you can type in
now
YouTube,
is, yes.
right? You can't type on Instagram. You can't type on TikTok. I mean, actually you can, but it's like what? It's not the same, right?
Those are very heavily algorithm fed by views. I mean, YouTube is too, but I think the text search is a lot more accurate.
Yeah.
I look up, how to Kimura somebody, and I get a ton of videos on that specific technique from a whole bunch of different people that did it. And sometimes it's not even the highest view or count video that's up there, right? So there is a little bit better searching on YouTube than other places, I think.
Yeah, I think some of my highest viewed videos are like tutorials, right? It's teaching someone how to do it's giving someone knowledge in some sort of way, whether it's, how to beat something in a game or how to fix something in real life, like whatever, just
things that are of value. And that just really, I mean, that's the part about streaming as a business. It goes with the free market. If you provide a service of value, people will do business with you. On YouTube, it's simply to watch your video, right? And your views go up and you get paid from the ads and the other stuff, or you get paid from the product you sell on the side, or, however you choose to monetize.
Right, whether it's money or exposure or whatever it is. Yeah, there's value to it.
But that's the thing. And that's where a lot of people, I think, complain about this kind of stuff and about a free market is they have nothing to offer.
Yeah.
They just want to be famous. And it's like, well, you can sell your soul to the devil. Or you could actually just learn to provide something of value to people.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes that's entertainment. Some people are just that entertaining. Like, I'm not claiming to be that person, but there are YouTubers out there that are just that entertaining. That's all they need to be. Stephen He comes to mind. Do you remember, you ever watch his videos?
Can you remind me?
I do believe he was an actor first. And then he didn't go into the Hollywood business, but he started a YouTube channel where he was parodying like childhood stories from his dad.
Okay.
And they immigrated, I think, to Britain from China. So his dad was kind of like this old school hardcore Chinese guy who would tell those stories like, I used to walk to school uphill. I would get attacked by the tiger and like all the, kind of that stuff. So he, as an actor, he actually plays himself and his dad.
Oh God.
Right? And he does his dad in like the really thick accent, and then like the story at first it's just him recounting the stories, and as his channel grew, he started making skits of like his dad actually doing that walk to school, and he actually has to fight a tiger. And it's like, oh, we probably should have believed him. But yeah, no, it's funny stuff like that, and he's just that entertaining, right? He's just that funny. So a service. But the truth is most of us probably aren't as creative or as funny as we think we are sometimes. So I think content creation comes with a certain amount of awareness. Like, you have to be self-aware of where you're at and what it's going to do for you and what energy you have to put in. Like, I know for me, I had a couple of choices. I could pursue developing this company to make and create my own stuff, or I could try to put all my time into streaming and content creation. And I chose to go a different path and keep streaming something for me on the side to have a community to kind of celebrate with and have it. It's really nice to just be able to get on the weekend and decompress a little bit.
Right. So let's actually talk about that. So aside from streaming, are we allowed to talk about the comic stuff? Can we get into it?
100%.
All right. So I'm just going to let you go off. I want you to say everything about it and just go off.
Well, let me start, I guess, at the beginning. When you and I first met, I was only in content creation and I was in nursing. So I had just been medically retired from the military, and I was searching for, a career path that was going to be good. And I was a combat medic. So bridging to nursing was a logical choice in terms of my options, in terms of pay, in terms of, different things like that. Plus, I still had private security gigs on the side. So it was really good. Partway through that, it's almost like my childhood love started to come back for things. I started thinking a lot about X-Men. I started thinking a lot about the horror movies I grew up loving. I started thinking about stupid things like Power Rangers, things I haven't thought about in 20, 30 years, right?
Okay.
And all of a sudden, like my notebook went from these like super detailed, like I would draw out the anatomy of like what we were studying in school, or I would draw out like the topic, and then I would write all my notes with the picture. That way I could remember it easier, like for
That's
a
cool.
test. Because if I had the visual image, I could remember all the parts that go with it.
Yeah.
But it went from that, and pretty soon I was drawing Wolverine and Psylocke, and I wasn't paying attention in class anymore. And I was just like, kind of, I was still passing, and I got through all my stuff for nursing. And instead of applying, I was on one of Jim Lee's art streams. This is before it really got huge, so I had a chance to kind of talk to him a little bit. And I asked him, I was like, "Hey, man, like, if I want to become a professional artist, what do I actually got to do?" And he always gives this cheesy answer, because I think a lot of people ask him and they're not serious.
Right.
And he goes, just draw, dude. And I was like, "No, you don't understand. Like, I'm a professional."
No, he's
like,
probably 100%
military.
right. He probably is
Yeah.
100% right.
Well, he's partly right. Yeah, for sure. But once I pressed him a little bit, like, no, I'm a guy who like gets a mission done, kind of a thing. He goes, "Well, you need to get somebody that tells you that you're wrong. You need to get a mentor. You need to get a teacher." And I was like, okay. That day, he rated one of his first students in the Wildstorm, who's phenomenal artist, Ryan Benjamin. And I was talking to this guy, and his stream was fun. He had a lot of energy. And then I started looking him up, and I was like, dude, I read that book. I read that book. I read that book. Like, I knew who he was. And so then I asked him, I just blatantly just asked him, I was like, hey, like, are you teaching students right now? And he thought about it and said, shoot me an email. So I shot him an email, and we started doing art lessons online. And
No way.
That changed, right in the middle of you and I, like, being friends on Twitch and all that. And so I started learning to draw. It was a little bit at a time because I was still in school. So I was doing that for a while, just trying to figure out like the basics, if I could even do this thing. I met a really good art community, got in with them, and then I just spent time grinding. And finally, he held this in-person class in LA. And so I said, this was basically like the tipping point of my career. I said, okay, if I raise the money for this on stream, I will go to this camp. If I don't, I'll just let this be a dream. I got a little bit better at drawing, and that's fun. And I'll just keep pressing forward with nursing.
But you set like a goal for yourself.
I set a goal, a hard goal. And that goal was blown out of the water. And there's a couple of people who are largely to thank for that, who to this day say they saw the potential and they just wanted to make that happen. So they not only did a bunch of heavy lifting, but they also rallied the rest of the community and hype. And that's another point about streaming. If you don't have hype men in your corner, you need to consider like who your mods and who your VIPs really are.
Yeah.
Especially on Twitch. You need people that celebrate you, that lift you up, that help that side of your business. Right?
For sure.
But anyways, we blew that out of the water. I flew down to LA. I got my stuff torn apart. This is Comic Pro boot camp, not Comic Pro happy camp, right? First night we show up, there are some legitimately like almost pro artists in this room already. And I'm like, oh no, I don't belong here. We open up our portfolios and we all get torn apart. Like some people are crying. It's like rough. It's rough, dude. Like people's entire life works just shredded. Everybody comes back. Not a single person quit. Everybody came back that first class.
Okay.
A little bit beat up that next morning. And then the instructors did a flip. Instead of being hard, now everyone was ready to listen, right? Everyone wanted to listen because they actually wanted to fix the problem.
Yeah.
So then they went in, they just started teaching. And they were super encouraging all the way through. And they were, every time they gave like advice, it was everybody just kind of took it. And then pretty soon the students were walking between the desks, sharing and getting to know each other. And it turned into this huge thing. And by the end of the third day, they were kind of treating us like part of the process. And we got to do art with Ryan. We got to do art with Will Spertasio. We got to do art with Carlos D'Ando. We got to do art with Alex Sinclair. We got to talk to Kevin Grievous, who was the guy, he wrote, directed, and acted in Underworld. Like, so we got to meet publishers. Like, this workshop was massive,
Cool.
right? For what it was. You were intimately in a room with professionals who do this thing and care about it. And that changed everything. From that moment forward, I said, this is what I want to do. I want to create in this medium. And it was just like a year or two later, my youngest kids were finally in school full time, and I was able to dedicate full time to learning art. So I went hard, 12 to 18 hours a day drawing.
Wow. That's a lot. Did you have to give up kind of a lot of time with the streaming? Do you think to focus on that? So that was definitely like an active choice to do that.
It was an active choice, yes. Yeah. At the time, my numbers were still, they were in the double digits, but they weren't massive, right? But the pay was still really good. Like, I was making a chunk of money with just a small, tight-knit community.
And was that like Twitch, or was that, you don't have to get into it too much, but that was like Twitch,
on Twitch. Yeah.
Was that
so
like,
I was double feeding at that point.
Was that like Twitch paying you or like donators?
That was both. It was both paying.
Okay. Makes sense.
A lot of that stuff is through people donating in Twitch with like the bits and the different stuff like that. But some people would tip straight. Some people would do other things. People would send like care packages and gifts and stuff. So
I feel like it must have been like a big sacrifice, right? Like it must have been.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. And so now, almost a decade later after that, right? Because that's like, 10 years ago?
So when I went full time was about 6 years ago.
So yeah, like not a decade, but like more than half a decade it took you. But now you can safely say you've released your first ever comic.
Yeah. So, okay, I have worked on comics before, both as like I've done flatting for colorists. I had done layouts for pencilers. So I had done work behind the scenes, but you don't get credited for any of it. However, I'm super thankful for it because it taught me a ton about the industry and gave me a little bit of pay along the way. That and then commissions would be great. Then I got work on indie comics, couple pages here, cover there, kind of a thing. So that was going great. Then I scored a gig on Assassin's Creed. That was a big deal.
That was huge.
And during that, I took that Comic Pro boot camp. I got in with the instructors, especially Ryan. His relationship and I grew a lot, and I started managing the community side. So I created a special Discord you can only get to by taking the class. And that's in there, you get continued education, you get continued meeting, you get job postings, you get a whole bunch of stuff. Nice. And I started picking people from that were sort of ready, and I made a company that said, okay, we're going to give opportunities to amateur artists to bridge them over, right? Mm-hmm. Let them make mistakes, but be hard on them to continue pointing them in the direction that the instructors are telling us to go. That way, when you go back to the next boot camp, you go back to the next online session, you can show the thing that you've produced, you've gotten further, and they're going to take your critique further to that goal, that professional goal, right? Mm-hmm. And so I started this company that was that medium, and we produced, I got it right here, I'll show it on the camera. We produced this noir anthology, which is, based off of like old detective noir stuff, but everybody kind of like injected their own subgenre to it. So like I did a little bit of horror mystery. Some other people did some like, I won't spoil it, but we got the legendary Will Spertasio. We hired him to draw the cover. The Kickstart campaign was incredible on this. It blew the stretch goals off the hinges. I could not have expected that to do that. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Now we're in the phase where we're really in the building phase of our infrastructure. We're making sure that like our international shipping is good. We're polishing up our online stores. Like we're building the next database of scripts and stuff for the continued stories, as well as I'm bringing in new talent for another anthology. So we went from we spent time to learn from mistakes on how to do this, because making a comic is way more than just drawing it.
Yeah.
There's so much more behind the scene that you don't even know.
Yeah, I just want to congratulate you on just releasing that and finally doing that. We were talking about that for so long, and now like I'm gonna pull up the picture on screen. If I know you showed your camera too, but I'm just gonna pull it up on the screen too. It just looks so beautiful. Like I'm so hyped to get it myself, and
Thank you.
I'm gonna put the link in the description and everything. And I hope all the shipping stuff works out. Like I know you're working on that stuff right now, and that's really cool, man. I'm so happy for you. The big sacrifice, like that's cool. Like it's definitely like inspirational for people out there that want to do something like that. There are ways to do it. It's just you gotta take that leap of faith. You have to choose what you want to spend your time in, and you have to find a teacher, find a mentor. That definitely that's helped me in the past too, for sure. And I still have teachers today that help me.
Yep.
Someone to tell you that you're wrong, you know what I mean? Someone to tell you where you could be better,
100%.
because ego can kill you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you're doing that, you're streaming, you're working on comics now, you got the music stuff going. Can you tell me more about that? Because you make music too, which is amazing. You shred, which is awesome. And
Thank you.
You want to talk a little bit about that? You have a new album, right? That I think, is it dropped yet, or?
Well, so okay, I used to tour and play as a metal guitar player for years in different bands, and that was like my biggest passion ever. Is I just love metal, and so being where I was in life with the comics and family and all that stuff, I couldn't necessarily just up and leave for tour or for the investment into that anymore, especially if I didn't know that my bandmates were going to be as dedicated as me. So what I did is I started building my own studio, and then I started getting more into like Baroque music and classical music and things like that, looking at how they're layering and a little bit deeper music theory to just break down and understand things. And then I started producing stuff, started with my stream. I started making, all the parts, the vocals, guitars, bass, drums, violins, cellos, like whatever I had, synthesizers, pianos. Started doing it all myself, and then we got to the point where we were in the Crimson Titan brainstorming meeting, and we talked about what we wanted to do for our campaigns. And so we said, we want to touch the five senses. We want you to experience something, not just read something, not just buy something. So I said, okay, let's make a soundtrack. And everyone's like, cool. So it started as like a 5-song thing, and then it became a 13-song soundtrack. It has a total vibe to this kind of imaginary world that we started. And it was super cool because I got to do a little bit of guitar work on there, but then I worked with things that I wasn't familiar with, like saxophones. I played saxophone as a kid in school band, but I quickly transitioned to guitar a couple years later to play in play metal with my friends. So I was doing like this hip hop, jazzy saxophone, jazz noir with pianos and these jazz drum beats, but also not like with some synthesizers and some like what sounds like musical or composition for like cinematic movies. So like cinematic, it's like, it was just very weird and different and experimental. And it was so cool. It was so good. And that led me to start doing, people started seeing kind of what I was doing on the side. I started getting hired to do soundtracks for independent films and short films. Like I just did a super cool project with my friends at Release the Hounds. Fantastic group of guys that they make how to make movie tutorials. So they make short films with an emphasis on a certain type of digital or practical effect, and then they teach you how to do it.
Cool.
And so for the last project, I can't wait till it comes out. It's a banger. I got to do the song, and that was really tough because the scene is shot, right? But the scene is not shot to my music. So I had to go in, I had to like lay in the music, and then I had to start changing a whole bunch of stuff to fit the moments of the what's happening. And because it's very heavily action based,
right,
there's a lot of hits,
a lot
so
of
I had
movement.
I had to find ways to accent all those things and bring those together in time. And I can't just be like, well, here's a 4/4 and 180 beats here, and here's a 5/6 in 30 beats per minute here. Like, that would sound jarring. So I had to get really creative with how I transitioned and moved the melody and the composition within this time signature, right? It was so fun, but it's probably the coolest thing that I've made today, just in terms of like a professional composing musician. I had to come up with some really interesting solutions.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's kind of really cool how like you like incorporate like I guess your knowledge of the music to like now you could do it like incorporate it into your streaming to these independent films. Like you can kind of use all of this in different outlets. That's really cool. That's a skill like I don't even have. Like that's really cool. What was I gonna say? So like the soundtrack, can we jump back to that? So it's 13 tracks, and so is there a name for the soundtrack yet, or
it's just Noir?
Noir.
It goes with the anthology, and I left it kind of open ended, because as the stories from Noir branch off in their own directions, each story is going to start manifesting its own genre. We're going to get more specific with each one and target the feeling of each story.
I love that. So yeah, and that's cool. You would never be able to do that if you weren't like doing the music stuff, which is so cool.
Exactly.
You can take one thing and really branch it into different things. Like you can literally take a whole comic and turn it into like its own soundtrack. That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
no,
awesome.
it was cool. And to go along with that, like when we made the campaign, like I said, we were trying to do the senses. One of the things that we did is we made whiskey glasses that have bullet holes in them and our logo, and then on the bottom it's got the Crimson Titan logo in the bottom of the cup, frosted.
Do you have
so when you fill it up, it highlights. They're packaged away right now. They're literally right here. I wish I could show it.
You know what?
But they're only for the Kickstarters, and that's one of the big things that I think works well for us is when we do something exclusive, that's it. It's exclusive. So you either get in then or you miss out.
Okay, gotcha.
And I think that's what helped that campaign to succeed. People were like, you know what? That's cool.
That's cool. You
and
get
I
that
want
like
it.
exclusive item. Awesome.
Yep.
If you could send me a picture of it later, I can pull it up on the video.
Yeah, I will. I will. I do have a picture of it.
Cool. All right. Yeah. So what else?
But that goes back to the smell and taste, right? Mm-hmm. So now you can drink out of your whiskey glass while reading the comic and listening to the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Right. And you get to touch. The comic is touch and sight, so it covers all five senses.
Right. So you get the experience, the touch, the hearing, the watching. Right. That's 4.
Yep. And the smell. Because
smell.
when you fill that up with a drink, it's going to have an aroma. And we're working on other ways to expand some of that stuff going forward too. But
that's really cool.
Yeah, we did it. We were able to at least touch on all 5.
Yeah. No, that's really smart. I think that's really cool. So what else? I don't really have too many other questions for you today. I wanted to also ask you, and you kind of touched on this before, but you know, streaming, the artwork, the music, you got the kids, you know, you were doing the combat training, you were in the military, thank you for your service, like all that stuff. Managing it all. Like, can you kind of give some advice to the people out there that have, you know, difficulty maybe choosing what to focus? Like, what led you to choose to forget about nursing, not forget about it, but, you know, making that choice to go to that workshop, to set that goal, you know, all that stuff. Like, it's a lot. You do so much. And, you know, I look up to that, you know, I look up to that heavy. You're a huge role model for me. That's definitely why I rock with you. You're such like an inspiration. You're an amazing friend too, obviously, but just seeing everything you do, it just inspires me. And just to the people out there now, whether they're just getting into content creation or they're in a tight spot where they don't know what to choose, you know, in a post-COVID era of what direction they should really take. Is there any like advice you would give someone to any of these genres, these industries, to go towards, or just anything like that?
Yeah. I think first it's to ask yourself, what do you love? Because I think inside of us is something that you can't force. It's kind of naturally there. For me, it's storytelling and adventure. Whether it's me out, in the wilderness on my own adventure, or it's me telling stories about adventure. That was the goal. And so when I realized that's kind of what some of my purpose was, I looked at that as something serious. This purpose is in me and it fulfills me. And I needed to work, I needed to have a job, but I gave up the luxuries of TV, of free time, of stuff like that to start learning how to do these things professionally. And it's worth the investment because it's in my core, right? It's really who I am in here. And so I think that purpose needs to be fulfilled. And there is a way to do it. You shouldn't just blindly be like, well, I'm going to do this now, quit my job. But you need to give up some of that free time. Like, don't sit down and watch Netflix. Don't sit down and smoke a bunch of weed and just zone out for the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Sit down, ask yourself some questions with the notebook, because that will give you some answers. Well, if this is what I want to do, how do I accomplish that? Well, I needed to learn how to draw. I needed to learn how to compose music, cinematically. I needed to do X, Y, and Z. Then I said, okay, well, how do I do that? Get an art mentor, actually read up books on music theory and composition, so on and so forth. And you read all those and you ask yourself those questions. Those will lead you to actual answers. Then just pick one, right? Most people probably won't have as complicated as like a system that I do. If you want to be a video game programmer, well, pick up a game maker, start programming, make a game, make a bad game, and release it. And then guess what? Start on your second game immediately. Don't even wait for the first game to make money or not. Make money. Start on the second game and do more. If you actually do the thing, that's the best practice you can get. And it will help you to manage your time better, because you'll have, like I said, if you write it down, you get that intentional goal. Like you've actually asked yourself the question and actually gotten the answer. I think the hardest thing is when we're talking to ourselves, we don't get that outside perspective. If, like you and I were talking, if you were to ask me advice and I were to give you something, it would help you to think from that other side. Well, if you've only got yourself, you need to write it down, because then that actually gives you a mechanism to be your own outside perspective, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I get it. Let's talk about burnout. It exists. We all go through it at least once. If you don't, you're lying to yourself. How do you manage it?
Well, it's different for all of my hobbies, but I think it's just the separation of knowing when I want to do something for work and when I want to do it for fun. When I want to do better at drawing, I sit down on my digital tablet with my sketchbook and I pull up references and I start studying. I start sketching the thing out with construction and detail and purpose. When I want to have fun, I just doodle. And I don't even care if it's good. I literally just doodle whatever the heck I want to do, whether it's a page full of eyeballs or noses or just gesture sketches or literally just making marks on the page. Like, it's just whatever I want to do. And I just allocate that time differently. If I want to play a video game, I don't necessarily have to stream. Sometimes I just want to play a game for myself.
Yep.
Right? So there's a difference between work and fun and knowing that separation. And then also, you got to get out. You have to get out.
Yeah.
Everybody is so stuck inside nowadays. It's incredibly unhealthy for us as humans. You need to get out into the sun or the rain or whatever it is. You need to go do something. You need to hike. You need to ride a bike. You need to go to the swimming pool. You need to play in a softball league. You need to do something. I like riding motorcycles. I like hunting. I like hiking. I like being out in the middle of nowhere in the mountains with vicious predators and just loving the nature. Like, that's just what I love. I just love sitting on that mountain breathing that air, as I overlook the other mountains and the ocean, and just knowing like, dude, I'm out here. Like, and time slows, your head clears, you're not around Wi-Fi, you're not around all the other stuff and the noise. It's just so freeing. We have to, as people, get back in touch with reality.
How are you with eating? Like, how's like the health with that? Are you able to, keep yourself like, are you like cooking? Are you like keeping is that something you keep, like, with everything you got going on? I know that that's a big thing, like, like staying healthy, like what you're eating and what you're, what your meal preps are like. Are you meal prepping? Like how, like, what is that looking like?
Right now we're kind of loose. So I'm super busy. My wife was super busy because she's in nursing school. Now that I'm reaching the end of this campaign and she's reaching the end, we've set a goal saying at the turn of this summer, we're going to do a nice soft reset when we have the energy. So for us, it's a goal. We're just doing whatever we can right now to make the end goal of the business side. And once these 3 weeks are up and our schedules are a lot more open again, we're going back to meal prepping. We're going back to like more intentional stuff like that. So food is important. It's actually incredibly important. Like right now, I live off coffee. I shouldn't, but I do. But yeah.
I think like one of the
I think if you know
things...
that you... Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. You go first.
I think if you know that you have like an end goal and you need to make a sprint to it, it's okay to kind of put other things off for a moment.
100%.
But that's because it's like, okay, I know that for this amount of months, I'm going to blitz down and get this thing done. And once it's done, reorganize, restructure. Like, what's nice is, I teach martial arts. I do more outside things that have helped in a balance, but like my back is really bad right now. So my own personal workouts are lacking. I just have to wait for the MRIs, for the doctors and all that to give me, where are we going forward so that I know, hopefully I can get some relief. That way I can get back to lifting and exercising and stuff like that. But I do think having a schedule for yourself is important, especially as a creator. Getting up at the same time every day. It's not that you have to go to bed at the same time, but if you wake up at the same time, your sleep will naturally adjust to kind of when you're tired.
Right.
Like whether it's 6 hours or 9 hours, your body is going to crash when it's ready because it knows when it has to get up.
Yeah. So when you talk about like you're setting like these goals and like once you finish them, you readjust kind of deal. So like how long do you have certain goals that are like a year later, 5 years later? Like, do you have goals like that? Or do you kind of live more like within the year, a couple months, or like, do you have like a 5-year goal kind of deal?
Yeah, I have what's called like a 25-meter target, 50-meter target, and a 300-meter target, right?
Okay.
Big, medium, small. So I have like a day-to-day goal, which is finishing certain things throughout the day, throughout the week. Then I have like a medium goal, which is my monthly goals every couple, like month to 2 months to 3 months. Then I have my big goals, which is like year to 5 years to 10 years.
Gotcha.
And I just kind of have all those layers separated. The biggest emphasis is on the day-to-day. You can't get the big goals if you don't do the small things. That's why, like in the military, they nitpick, especially if you want to get into special operations, they nitpick small things like on the uniform. If you can't handle the small things, you will not accomplish the big things. And that's what I also look for in people when it comes to Crimson Titan. I look at people who accomplish and are dutiful and are attentive to the small things because those things matter.
Yeah. Cool. All right. I think that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank you so much for coming on this podcast, being my first guest. It's been a pleasure. I don't know who we're going to have next on the podcast, but I'm really lucky that you're the first one and just you made it So cool. You made it so easy, clean. It felt so casual. Get it? Huh? Okay. So I'm gonna put all of your links in the description below. If you guys want to go get the new comic, that'll be in the description below too. Crimson Titan, you know, the umbrella of all the things you got going on. When does the soundtrack drop again? Is it out yet?
The soundtrack is online for digital purchase.
So we'll do that. We'll put that in the link in the description as well. We might have some motion for those comics coming pretty soon, right? We'll have
There's some cool stuff happening
cool
in terms
stuff
of
in the
animation and motion comics.
Yeah, we won't talk about it on this video, but it's a little teaser on something like that. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Like, this was awesome, you know.
Thank you for having me, and welcome to the team, bud.
Thank you, bro. Oh yeah, you didn't we didn't say it that I'm a part of it now. Yeah, I'm blessed. Thank you so much for inviting me onto that. Forward. Yeah. Anything else you want to say before we go?
No, just super proud of you for all the progress you've made in the last 10 years, watching you go from literally a boy to a man. And I couldn't be more proud to be still your friend today.
Love you, Brian. I love you. Now we're family, dude. At this point, come on.
It's true.
And I think so next year we are we allowed to talk about the next year's meetup? Is that like for sure happening? Can we talk about that real quick or no?
It tentatively.
Okay.
Yeah. It's this. So we're going to hopefully be in Baltimore this year. We have the spot. We just got to get all the details worked out of the trip. Right. And then hopefully again next year, you know,
yeah. So
Baltimore is on the,
that's all we'll say is that we might be meeting in person this upcoming year.
Yep.
Wow, that's crazy. And we're definitely recording that, you know, that's going to be legend. Wait for it.
Oh.
Derry.
Say it again.
Derry.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's funny. Okay, yeah, no, that would be awesome. What do we meet? But yeah, all right. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you so much for coming and being my guest on the first episode of the Kast. One of many. This is gonna be cool. I've always wanted to do a podcast. I've never done it.
I can't wait to see where you go with this.
And thank you for helping me come up with the name. I think it's so clever, right? The TK, right? It's cool. I'm so happy. Thank you. I love you, bro. Thank you so much.
I love you too, man.
You're so sick. Okay. So what's your next stream looking like? What are you playing next? Where can we find you next? Where are you going to be next?
You can find me on twitchtv.tc_hero. And currently we are playing through Double Dragon 2 on Supreme Master. We're playing Vice City. And we are playing through Pokemon Fire Red.
Yes. So, link in the description. Go check them out. You have to. And there it is. That is it. That's a wrap. First episode of the Kast. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.